for his reaction on the SIU's report on digital vibes. Business Unity President Bonang Mohale joins us now via Zoom. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. Last time we spoke, it was about the attempted insurrection, and you said we were in trouble. As you correctly pointed out while we were chatting earlier, this report was finalized in June. It's scathing and callous.
You see, Annika, we have now reached the depth of depravity. Ethical and effective leadership rests on a number of pillars. It rests on integrity, on accountability, on transparency, responsibility, fairness, and competence. So you can't pick and choose the one that you like. 3 months later, very clear, very comprehensive report of the SIU says not only was there wasteful, irregular, and fruitless expenditure, but the intent was to loot. The context for me is important, Annika, because this is the leadership that we were gifted with on the 19th of December 2017, premised on the new dawn, with renewal as the theme and, of course, unity of the party. So it demonstrates to us beyond any shadow of doubt that just like oil and water, there is no way that you can effectively and efficiently unite thieves with the angels. Therefore, the president will need to provide leadership by leaning on the Department of Health to say a minimum of these three. You can see that it's both systematic and systemic, ought to be rooted out and indeed defeated. That's why we are bankrupt. That's why we don't have money. That's why we are now reprioritizing expenditure to be able to fight off and fend off the pandemic. We are taking money from the school nutrition program. We are taking money from schools, health, and indeed education at the time that as a country we are trying to be globally competitive, Annika.
Prof, how do you deal with this from your point of view as a leader of organized business?
So first of all, I think as business we are going to pile up the pressure to say we can't have an acting DG telling the country that of course, the deputy DG is still at work because he has not been found guilty by a court of law. Because when you choose to be a leader, let alone being a public servant, you are choosing a higher level of morality, of standards and ethics. You hold yourself to the higher values. You are the one that shows us the true north. Therefore, you can, when it suits you, take the privilege of your voice being amplified tenfold, but then when you are found to be wanting, you say, no, I want to be treated like ordinary citizens, that I'm innocent until proven guilty. There's a lot of precedents where people have been found with a report that is less comprehensive than this, where they've been put on precautionary suspension. By keeping these people at work, it sends a strategic message that says we are not serious about corruption. Lastly, I think no wonder we are faced with the lowest levels of confidence, trust, and hope since the Second World War. Because you can see, you look around in the entire ANC-led government, you then find it very difficult to find the few angels that are still standing. Lastly, Annika, I think for me, it's very brave of the president. He has said to us as business, we are drawing the line in the sand. And he has said, the long arm of the law will eventually take its course. He said to us, trust the process. Of course, we trust the process. It's just that 27 years into democracy, 10 wasted years of state capture, it's very difficult to be patient when we are ravaged on the one hand by this wanton industrial scale looting, on the other by the recession and the downgrade. So by the time the pandemic found us, we were absolutely obliterated. And then we still, on top of that, put the fifth layer where we cut our nose to spite our face. What has happened with the values that led to the 27th of April 1994 when we ushered in the democracy, Annika?
Doctor, you so decisively put it, wanton industrial-scale looting as people were struggling to breathe and dying, which makes it seem almost callous and cruel. It adds that extra dimension of heinousness to the report. You've been calling for structural reform and decisive action now for some time. It's all very well that we have this report, but we need prosecutions.
Annika, you have hit the nail on the head. But you see, I really want to be categorical when I say people who elect corrupt politicians, imposters, thieves and traitors are not victims, but accomplices. So all of us are now accomplices. But also the president, that's what he promised in his fifth State of the Nation address when he gave us the four foremost overarching principles. Number one, he said, of course, we needed to defeat this coronavirus pandemic. Number two, he said we needed to accelerate our economic growth. Thirdly, he said we need to implement these structural reforms in order to create sustainable jobs and deliver this notion of an inclusive socio-economic growth. Lastly, he said we needed to defeat state capture and create a capable state. So as business, we stand ready to do three things: to be a trusted advisor, to be a partner of choice, to do everything in our power to make sure that this ANC-led government becomes a capable state. Because we have learned through the 9 wasted years that it's much easier, effective and efficient to deal with a state that is more capable than the one that is not. And as Business Unity South Africa is the apex organization that represents all the 55 organizations, not just individual businesses. We have been very clear to say, you see where the party ends is the beginning of state and government. That's where we want to forcefully insert ourselves. We are going to be honest, transparent, we are going to be vocal, we are going to be respectful, but we are going to be robust. Because, Annika, all of us begin to die when we are silent about things that genuinely matter.
Absolutely. Professor, Doctor, President of Business Unity SA, Bonang Mohale, thank you as always for your acuity and astute input on this matter.